Perfect. We got all the features on. No, listen to that baby sounds.
Okay. I'll wait just a couple more minutes before we get big started.
Okay.
Just to allow all the notifications to go across everybody's screens.
Yes. Does Google Meet work with Facebook?
I'm sorry, explain your question.
Well, so a while back, I don't know how long it's been, 4 months, 6 months, it may have been longer than that. Facebook, so you used to be able to stream, like I connected my Facebook and Zoom, and I could get on Zoom and it would stream into my group. So like it was like going live, but I could record it on Zoom.
I have not tried to see if that is possible.
Well, the reason I was asking, I don't think it's possible because I think I don't know, 4, 6, 8 months back, they took the ability to third-party stream into Facebook away. And I don't know why they did that. Because now I don't do anything inside of my Facebook group, like training wise or like, Zoom information wise. I only do it on Zoom because I can record it and then I can parse out the audio. And if I want to use that as a podcast episode, I can.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know of the ability to be able to do that on here either, but that's why the recording, because then I can use it.
I didn't know if it was one of those, how Google has kind of they have the stronghold on everything. And so I didn't know if it was like if there was like a Facebook Google partnership that I didn't know about and I needed to move my things over to Google Meet rather than doing them on Zoom. So
that would be nice. Hopefully that happens. I can only hope for the sake of us business owners trying to do all of it at once.
No.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get started.
Okay.
And then whoever joins us.
Sounds good.
Okay. Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good. This is Lindsay Fitcher. Don't let her name on the screen fool you. She is not Dan.
I am signed in under my husband's Google account apparently, and I couldn't figure out how to quickly change it. So I'm Lindsay, not Dan. Dan's my husband.
Okay. Let me pull up. Oh, wrong thing. Okay. We don't really have a full out agenda, but I've got some notes here on the side just to spark extra questions and tell us what you will be sharing with us today.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about managing time and priorities as a Christian entrepreneur and really examining kind of the lies that we've been fed and we've swallowed and maybe bought into a little too much, kind of a worldly perspective versus what God wants for our lives. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. I'll be sharing some of my story and we'll see kind of where that takes us.
Awesome. And I'm really excited. I missed the one. Sorry, my dog's going off.
Right.
I missed the one that you did the other day, and I was kind of bummed. I was excited to get to hear it before today, but I'm going to get to hear it today, and I'm excited about it anyways because I, just like a majority of teachers, am very good at showing and explaining and giving details on how we do the processes to follow, best practices, right?
Yeah.
And especially with managing time as an entrepreneur, right? Because you're throwing up so many balls and trying to catch them all while managing to continue to walk through the journey. It can be really difficult, and laying it out is very easy to be like, this is how we do it. My degree in business allowed me to show businesses how to lay that out so that you can walk through it.
Yeah.
But I myself still struggle, as a majority of entrepreneurs do. And I was really excited to hear it. Now I'm really excited to hear it because now I get one-on-one personal time.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's just figuring out, all of the balls that we juggle and we're constantly kind of pushing up into the air to keep ourselves afloat. We have to decide which ones are glass and which ones are plastic, which ones can actually drop and not break, and which ones can't. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I thank you for joining our speaker series, our first speaker for the series for our Christian entrepreneurs. And I am excited to hear you speak.
Awesome. You want me to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, go ahead. So
Awesome.
you.
Today we're going to be talking about managing time and priorities as a Christian entrepreneur. Let me see if I can. Here we go. I'm going to have to use my, there we go at the bottom. Okay. So I'm Lindsay. I am a recovering hustle culture addict. And right, raise your hand if you're a recovering hustle culture addict. I grew up, my mom owned a dance studio. From a very early age, performance was kind of a part of who I was or who I am. It's still a part of who I am. I wouldn't be a speaker if I didn't love it, right? So from a very early age, I learned that if I performed well, and it wasn't just in the dance studio world, it was in academics and in cheerleading and being the nice girl, and all of the ways someone could say something nice about you or give you an award. I was that girl. And that followed me through. That kind of followed me through into adulthood. And I still, I don't want it at all appear like I've got it all together, because that's just not the case. I have, with God's help, really figured out how to manage my time and tasks well. But it's definitely something that's followed me into adulthood. And I bought into a lot of the lies that hustle culture wants us to believe. Do more, be more. You can be all the things to all the people. And, it's just really, really unfortunate that that's the message in American culture to ourselves and to our kids and to our world, because it's actually not how God wants us to live. It's kind of counterintuitive to that. And I'm here to kind of shed some light on that. And we don't have to hustle for things to work. So
yeah. I love that you specifically brought up the American culture. In specific Asian cultures, if you get caught napping, it's actually a sign of hard work. Like you're working hard, so you have to nap. You get caught napping here, you could be doing something else, friend.
Right. You're lazy. Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay. So here are some of the lies. And as I'm kind of reading these to you, I want you to kind of just go, oh, yep, that's one, or, oh man, not that one, but the next one, right? So the lies that we believe are: we have to work harder. Your performance determines your worth. You have to multitask at all times. You can't ask for help ever, or that means you don't have it together. You can't ask for a break either, because that means you're weak or you're lazy. You can do it all. You can be it all. You need to accomplish more. You need to win all the awards. You need to pack your schedule. No one can do it better than you. I mean, how many moms out there? Nobody can do it better than us, right? Nobody can change the diapers better than us. Nobody can feed the baby better than us. I mean, breastfeeding, of course, yes, no one else can. But there are things that moms take on because they're good at it and it's innate to us. So just, kind of as I'm going through this, like not just in work, but in life, like just in your personal lives, what are the lies that we're believing? You have to be busy. Your kids have to be busy. It won't get done if you don't do it. You always have to say yes because saying no is rude or disrespectful, or that means you might not be considered for that promotion or that next client, right? Your success is dependent upon money, accolades, promotion. If you aren't busy, you aren't of value. Resting equates laziness. So I've believed one or all of these lies at at different points in my life. Like I said earlier, the performance one is the one that I really kind of attached myself to, and literally every job I've applied for, anything that I ever wanted to do, I figured out a way to get it. The jobs, the awards, the being on the leadership team and being chosen for this and winning that. I've done it. And I still felt completely empty at the end of it all. So I want to talk about the symptoms. These are the things that you're feeling. You may not be identifying that it's hustle culture that's kind of that you've latched onto, or it's latched onto you. But the symptoms are you wake up feeling exhausted. It doesn't matter how much you sleep. It doesn't matter how early you go to bed. It doesn't matter how much you sleep in. You wake up feeling exhausted, tired, anxious, and cranky. My feelings were feeling burned out in life, in business, especially motherhood and school. If you're in school, you kind of feel empty no matter what you do and how much you accomplish. Like I said, I was at in my corporate America career, I was at the top of my company. I was the top salesperson. And I still felt like this can't be it. This can't be all that there is for me.
Yeah.
And you also kind of feel out of control while you're trying to be in control, which is a very interesting juxtaposition, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So you're always checking your schedule. You need to be busy. You need to do it faster. There's some disillusionment. You feel like there's constantly noise around you, and there's always demands.
Yeah.
You're maybe not meeting, or you feel like you're not meeting kind of in your world. The results of the lies and the symptoms is that we have errors in judgment. We miss opportunities to have conversations and get to know people and to share our faith with them. We fail to focus on what's really, really important in our lives. We say things we regret. We end up with broken relationships. We end up with dissatisfaction in our job and career because we're putting the weight of who we are and what we want out of life onto our job. And we're hoping that our job will fulfill whatever it is inside us that's just not happy. You feel buried, and you'll maybe feel buried under stress. You miss out on important events. You generally just feel burned out. These are all things I've experienced. And in 2020, when COVID hit, I was at kind of the top of my career, the peak of my career in corporate America. I had a multi-six-figure paying job. I was traveling. From the outside looking in, it probably looked like I had it all together. My life was fantastic. We had moved to the Woodlands. I had taken a promotion, which is not very common. I found out in this area for you to be moving because of the wife's or the mom's, the wife or mom's job. I know a lot of men work in oil and that here, and that is a very common thing for you to just pick up and move for your husband's job. Well, it was actually my job that brought us here, and we were grounded. I couldn't go anywhere. I like all of us, right? Like every one of you, I was not able to travel. I couldn't go and meet with my team. And we started having dinner together. My husband wasn't commuting an hour and a half each way. And we, like I said, we were having dinner together. I wasn't missing things in the evenings because I was in Oklahoma or Missouri or wherever it was I was at this week, right?
Yeah.
And God really started working on my heart and my posture and my view of myself and where I had placed my worth. And I realized I really was placing my worth in my accolades and in what I was accomplishing. And so I had to really walk a hard, humbling would be the right word, a really hard, humbling journey with the Lord, because he really showed me I was missing it. I was missing opportunities to have conversations with my kids about God and about Jesus. And I was missing things that were important to them. And I was missing time that I would never, ever be able to make up. So in 2020, I got crystal clear vision, 2020 vision. And the way I was living is just it's not who we were created to be. And it's not how we were created to live our lives. So I want to talk about what God models for us, or what God modeled for us in the Bible, because he modeled boundaries and margin. And I think it's really important to kind of step back a little bit and take a look at what some of the things that he showed us. And I could go on and on and on and on with the examples of this from the Bible, but I just really want to point out kind of two main topics: boundaries and margin. So you all know the story of creation, right? I want to point out that God's boundaries create peace and protection for us. And in the beginning, God created. And then on the seventh day, God rested. God put a boundary in place for us. He showed us and modeled for us that rest is not only okay, but it is imperative for our lives. It is imperative for us, for our creativity, for our mindset, for our bodies. It is imperative that we rest. He didn't need the rest.
No,
He's God. He's the God of the universe. And he could have just, Katrina, I know we talked about this earlier, like he could have just snapped his fingers and blew all of it into creation and it just would have been. But he modeled a boundary for us because he knew that we would need rest. He knew that we would need that type of peace, and he knew that we would need that type of protection. He put a boundary around work.
Yeah. So, he specifically said Sabbath, the seventh day of rest, was created for man.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, because we have the list, that, never ending list of tasks to do, there's always something to do in your business, right?
Right.
There's always something else that we can do, another task we can check off the list. I think it's really, really important for us as Christian entrepreneurs to remember that that was a boundary he put in place. And not only did he model it, he mandates it.
Yes.
So the next kind of set of examples are margin. And margin opens the door for opportunity. When we have a little bit of extra space, we have time to have extra conversations or to notice other people in their struggling or in their hurt. And it allows for the door to be opened for us to minister to those people. So I want to talk about Jesus's pace first. Jesus walked. There is not one instance that I am aware of. I have read it, and he walked. He walked everywhere he went. He didn't run. He didn't hustle. He didn't hurry. Not one time does it say that. He walked. And because he walked, and because he went at a pace that was manageable, he had margin in his ministry. He had time to stop and talk with the woman at the well. He had time to turn around and speak with the woman who touched his garment because she just thought that if she touched him or hit something on him, that she would be healed.
Mm-hmm.
He had time in his ministry when Lazarus died. That rerouted him.
Yeah.
And he had time to go and he wept with his sisters, and then he ministered to Lazarus's sisters, and then he raised Lazarus from the dead. There was margin in his ministry. And I think we can really take a lot of notes from his example. He wasn't hurrying. He wasn't.
Right. He acknowledged the timing and everything.
Right. And, and I think back to when my oldest, I have one in high school and one going into high school. He'll be in high school next year. And I think back to all of the times that I hurried them along. It wasn't because they weren't doing what they were supposed to. It was because I didn't allow enough margin in our day to get to where we needed to go without stress, without me hurrying, without me asking them to hustle. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was putting the hustle culture in them.
Yeah.
So I think we need to just kind of take a step back and go, okay, what pace am I living at? And do I have any margin anywhere? Because chances are, as a Christian entrepreneur, you're probably not leaving a lot of margin left.
And that can be so easy to get stuck in too.
Oh, it's so easy. The next thing that I want to point out is that Jesus prayed in the height of his ministry. In the height of his ministry, I think it's in Luke 5. It talks about how Jesus pulled himself out more than he did any other time. He pulled himself out and went and prayed. He pulled himself out and created margin between him and the rest of the world so that he could connect with God and so that he could really get his mindset right and really focus on what was in front of him and what was important and what he was called to do on this earth.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's these two examples of his pace and him pulling himself out, saying, wait a minute, I got to go for a minute. I got to go pray. I got to go figure this out with God. I got to kind of pull myself back.
Yeah. Well, and I think with that, he was full man. He was God, but he was man. And that was purposeful. Yes. God specifically made him man for our witnessing, right?
Right.
And imagine being in the world that he was in, right? Being in the world that we are in and trying to go through that and do what he did without stepping aside and making sure to be purposeful.
Yeah.
In stepping aside to talk to just God to make it through what it was he was trying to do on earth.
Right. And I think that's just such an important point that we've got to set aside time, and we've got to be able to say, not right now. I need to sort some things out.
Oh yeah.
So I want to talk about time and task management, some actual tools, because I could sit here and talk about all day about the examples in the Bible and Elijah the prophet. And we could talk about this for a long time. But I really want to give you some tools that you can actually use on a day-to-day, week-to-week, maybe even month-to-month basis. I think it works better. It works best for me weekly, but you do you, and however you manage that best. Every brain is different and everyone works differently. But I want to make sure that we are allowing ourselves to create boundaries and create margin as God modeled for us. So I want to talk about your priorities first. I really want you to think about what's actually important to you. Now, every season and every person is going to be different, right? In my previous season, I would have told you that work is my priority and that was the most important thing because that is what provided for my family. I had that completely backwards and completely upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And God has shown me that and worked, like I said, he has humbled me and he has kind of, it was a hard turnaround in my brain. Today, my priorities are being available for my kids and being available for my husband and making sure that I'm not working 24/7, right? That I am home for dinner, that I'm there for kid pickup, that I'm there for the sports games, no matter what. Nobody gets that time but my kids and my husband, right? So my priorities in this season of my life are different than what they were before. And I think that there are seasons where we do have to do a little extra work, and we do have to, there are going to be seasons where you can't just say, nope, like I'm not working this week, or I'm not, like I have to do. There are going to be seasons where you have to hustle a little, probably, right? Like, but I really want you to make your list of priorities. I want you to put it on a Post-it, put it on your computer screen so that you are looking at those every single day, so that everything that you're doing in your business and in your personal life filters through what is the most important, what are my priorities. Mm-hmm. So then after that, I want you to take a look at your tasks. So these could be, you can make a list for your business and a list for your personal life. I tend to just make a list, just one list, and all of my tasks go onto that list.
Yeah.
And I want you to list out everything. I don't mean like just the big highlight ones. I mean everything you are responsible for doing in your business and in your personal life. Put it on a piece of paper, okay? Once you get that list done, then I want you to run it through the filter of Eisenhower's matrix, which we're going to talk about now. President Eisenhower is credited for coming up with this matrix. Now, I don't think necessarily he used this square format with the four and the things, but this is the filter or the lens that he ran his decisions through. And he was asked how he made decisions and how he decided what was important. And this is how he did it. And so he's credited with this matrix. It's been a really useful tool for me. And I think it's going to be a useful tool for you if you use it. You have to use it.
Yeah. Tools only work if you use them.
Right. Tools in your garage don't fix things by themselves.
If
right?
only.
So we have to use the tools that we're given. So, okay. So I want to talk about the 4 categories in Eisenhower's matrix. There is the urgent and important. So things like in your business, it could be answering the phone when customers call. It could be making sure that we are on time. It could be a really big range of things. But urgent, if they are urgent and important, they get done by you. Now, these are things we do right now, okay? The next category to the right is not urgent and important. These are things like social media posts, maybe networking for your business is important. It is for both of my businesses.
Yeah.
Those are things that you put they're not urgent. They don't have to happen today, but they do have to happen for your business to move forward, for your personal life to be on track, right? Then there's the urgent, not important. These are kind of maybe a little bit of some of the fires that pop up, day to day or week to week in your business or in your personal life, like your kid forgets their folder at home, or a customer creates a fire for you to handle, right? Urgent but not important. Then there's the not urgent and not important category. And this is the category that I lovingly call wearing the bra category. This is the category that you're going to look at and go, I could wear my bra at home. I could wear it while I'm in the peace and comfort of my home, but why would I? Because it's uncomfortable and it's not necessary. Okay. So like I lovingly and jokingly call this category the why would you wear the bra category? Okay. So the urgent and important tasks, you do them. The not urgent but important tasks you schedule. So, for example, networking, social media posts, my kids' games, my kids' practice schedules, the pickup times, those all get scheduled. The other items we have to do because they're urgent and important. The ones that are urgent but not important, I want you to consider delegating those.
Mm-hmm.
Are these items something that you, Katrina, me, Lindsay, you as the business owner, are these items that you actually have to do? And I just realized that the transcription misspelled my name. That's funny. So these are the categories. These are things that maybe a VA could help with, answering emails or, it's just the little tasks. For me, an urgent but not important to me task is going to the grocery store. I can delegate that by doing a click list and someone else can go shop, and then I show up and I sit in my car and I answer emails while someone else brings it out to my car and puts it in, right?
Yes.
Like there are things in our lives that we can delegate that don't have to be done by us. Grocery shopping, amen. Thank you, Lord, for the click list. Okay, let's just do that.
Mm-hmm.
The wear the bra category are the ones you delete. Why would you do them if you don't have to? If they don't move your business forward, if they don't produce customers, revenue, or in some way, shape, or form make you money, maybe we should consider putting them into this delete category. And I guarantee this is a category that you're probably going to fight me on. You're going to say, you're crazy, I have to do it all. But I promise you there are tasks on your list, both in your home, in your personal life, and in your business that you don't actually need to do, that if they don't get done, nothing actually happens.
Yeah.
And I think that this is one of those areas that a lot of business owners in general, not just Christian business owners, but business owners in general really get caught up in, and they spin their wheels because they do the thing that's easy for them. So for example, I'm a salesperson. I'm a sales and marketing. That's the way my brain works. I get the connections and the communication, and I get the relationship part of business. I don't get the bookkeeping. I know it has to be done. That's something that thankfully we are able to delegate at this point in the business, but I don't get the bookkeeping. And I think there are a lot of, and I'm using the bookkeeping example as kind of a proverbial example, right? Like there are a lot of people that get caught up in the bookkeeping, and the bookkeeping doesn't move my business forward. It's something that has to happen, right? It's a delegate task for us now. It's a task that is urgent, but not important.
Yeah.
Right? It has to happen. I have to know my numbers, but it's not something that I have to do. And I think sometimes we find the thing in our businesses that we're good at, and we find the things that we're comfortable with, and we do those over and over and over and over and over, while the things that really move our business forward and really make push things forward, get new customers, get more revenue out of the existing customers, making the sales, that part gets pushed off because we're comfortable over here. And so I really want you to examine your list. Does it make you money? Does it push your business forward? Does it get you in front of new customers? Does it create offers for your existing customers? If not, we need to figure out where to put this in the delegate or delete. Okay, so you all, I gave the example earlier of the glass balls and the plastic balls. We're all juggling all these things, and we've got to figure out which ones are the glass ones and which ones are the plastic ones. I'm going to use another example. You've probably seen or been shown the example of the rocks, pebbles, and sand, and how if you have a jar and you put the things in the wrong order, the jar ends up spilling over and not everything fits, right? But if you put in the big things first, like the rocks, and those would be your dues, right? You put the dues in, and then your pebbles are the schedule, and then the sand is the delegate. then everything fits into the jar. And
Right.
so we really have to take a look at our priorities. We have to take a look at our tasks, and then we have to put them where they fit, and we have to put them in the right order, right? We have to make sure that we've got things in order on our calendars.
Right.
So I want to talk about some ways to manage your calendar, not just your tasks, because that's a task management tool. The Eisenhower's matrix is a task management tool. I want to talk about some ways to manage your actual time and your calendar. Now, I am not going to go into great detail about these, but you can use the combination. There are things that work for my brain that doesn't work for others. There are ways that work for your brain and they won't work for me. So you'll have to maybe play around with these, kind of figure out what works. But there's kind of 5 main ways to manage your time wisely and well. One is time blocking. It could be, from 9 to 10, I do this particular task every single day. Or it could be on Mondays from 9 to noon, I work on this thing. And then when that section is over of my day, I move on to the next thing, right? Time blocking does not work for my brain. I feel like I'm choking. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I feel like constraints are being put on me. And my brain just doesn't work for me. It's probably my self-diagnosed, undiagnosed. I think I have ADHD. I have not been diagnosed with that, but I do think that the time blocking thing has something to do with the way that my brain works. The second way is task stacking. So for example, I don't do this necessarily, I don't do this well, but I do it a little bit in one of my businesses, in my sales and business strategy consulting business. I task stack. So I have a podcast. And so what I try to do is block off some time, each week I sit down and I record 2 to 3 episodes. Then the next day I might go back and then edit those episodes. So I kind of chunk things together and say, okay, I've got 4 podcasts that I need to record. I'm going to get the recording done this day, and then I'm going to get the editing done this day. Or you could just say, hey, all of my podcast work goes on, it all works together. And then I'm going to do that on this particular day. That works pretty well for me. Social media could be another task stacking one where you plan out your whole month or your whole week and you get all of those scheduled and you get that checked off your list. The third way is the way I work best. I call it the successful week. I make a list of all of the things that I need to get done in that week. And I kind of draw the line in the sand of these are the 5. Sometimes it's sometimes it's 10. Sometimes I have 20 things to get done. Sometimes it's 3, right? So it will ebb and flow week to week. But I look at my list and I say, all right, what is going to make this week successful? What are the tasks that I need to get done, that I have to do, that's going to move my business forward, that's going to make sure that my personal life is peaceful, that's going to make sure that I'm connecting with my husband and my kids, right? Because that's a priority for me. I'm still looking back at that list. And I do the things that are going to make my week successful. If I have any time left over, then I do maybe some extra things, right? But it's just a matter of, in my brain, what do I need to get done to make myself feel like it's been a good week. It's been productive. I feel successful at the end. So that's the one that I use the most and kind of globally for myself. The next one is I call it timer and a break. There is an actual term for this and I'm blanking on it right now, but basically
I call it a quick tidy.
Yeah, exactly. So this could be, I use this for social media because I get sucked in and then I look up, 2, 3, 4 hours later and I've been scrolling and, all the things. So I use timer and a break pretty regularly for myself in certain things. So social media being one of them. This is where you set a timer for 25 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off. But you set a time constraint around the task that you're going to do. And then when the timer goes off, you are done. So social media being my thing, right? I give myself 10 or 15 minutes on social media, depending upon what I need to get done. And then when that timer goes off, I literally get up out of my seat and I walk into
Love
another
that.
room, right? So it's just kind of like getting yourself in the habit of going, I've got this amount of time to spend on this. This is not a task that is necessarily important. It's kind of a it's one of those urgent things because I have to keep in front of my audience online.
Right.
It's not important enough that I need to make it my whole day, right? So
right. And the way that social media specifically works is it hooks you in. Like that's the whole goal. Because if it can keep you there, they make more revenue.
Yeah.
So the longer you stay on, the more money they make.
Right.
So they are going to keep you on as much as possible. So you're on there doing your work for your business, the stuff that is important because you need to advertise and market and network. And then that one video pops up and you're like, oh, that's so cute. And then you just automatically scroll on to the next one without thinking. And then you're stuck there looking at videos for however long.
Yep.
You end up and you're like, man, I came on here for this one purpose.
Yep. I literally have, I don't know where I must have taken it. And I was working in my husband's office yesterday, but I literally have a little timer. It's about this big. I literally have a timer sitting on my desk and I time myself because like you said, it is social media's goal to keep you on their platform. The longer you are on there, the more money they make. But the opposite of that is the more time you are on there, the less money you make. Right? So set a timer for those tasks that kind of you feel like you kind of like go down a rabbit hole on and get those done. Take a break, get up out of your chair, move to another room, get some water, move around a little bit, get some other juices, like get the blood flowing a little bit and then go back.
It gives you
that'll help you. Yeah. That'll kind of help you separate yourself from it, right? The last one is it's called Eat the Frog. And I had a boss in corporate America that was phenomenal at eating the frog. This is just doing the hardest things first on your task list. So she would and she did this daily. This was a daily practice for her and it worked really, really well for her. I am not an eat the frog type of girl, but
not my preference.
Yeah, not mine either, but this worked really, really well for her. This is basically like she would make a list of her tasks for the day and she would do the hardest ones first. You could also do it for the week and make a list of make a list of what's to come for the week and do the hardest ones first. Now, sometimes it wasn't necessarily like hard conversations or it was sometimes she had to figure something out and she knew it would take her a pretty good chunk of time to do that. So she would do that first. And then as her day and as her week got kind of moved along, her day would get easier as it goes.
Right.
She was phenomenal at that. It's not my preference, like I said, but it's a way, it really is an effective way to manage your time if that's your personality and you can really make yourself do that.
And I want to add, so I'm sorry, I had said I call it quick tidying when you brought up timer and break. I think it'll still fall under that section. But when I'm seriously like sitting there in a rut and like there are things I really don't want to do on my task list. And I just like overwhelmed at the list of priorities, right? I set a timer for 15, 20, 30 minutes.
Yep.
And my goal in that time frame is to clear as much off of my list as possible.
Yep.
And once that timer is up, it tends to be I'm continuing on with my task list because once I've gotten into that flow in those 15 minutes or so, I have jump started. Okay, I'm hitting these tasks. I'm being productive. I'm feeling good about it. I have set off those endorphins in my body that make me that have allowed me to continue to basically find it enjoyable. I promise you, it doesn't matter what it is you're doing, if your brain is not enjoying what's happening, it's going to stop you at some point. There are people doing things that they don't enjoy. What is it? Brokering, when you're like selling stocks and shares,
Yes.
like in the tower, like, right? Like
Yep.
you're sitting there selling stocks.
Right.
If your brain does not enjoy that, you're going to end up one of those people that just like shuts off
Yep.
from the world. Because if your brain doesn't like doing it, it's not going to do it for a long period of time.
Right.
And so once you've jump started those endorphins that make it enjoyable, right? Like if you're one of those, I cross it off my list, I feel good about that. Yeah, it can, doing that quick tidy, or that's what I call it, right? Of just trying to clear off as much as I can in a short period of time will help you jumpstart that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it goes back to, the boundaries around work, right? Like we have to give ourselves some space to rest. And because we can't work 24/7 and
Right.
feel good about it, right? We can't work 24/7 and expect our brains to be in it. Like we can't.
Yeah.
It's not the way we were designed.
It is not.
And and God, like I said earlier, God modeled that for us. On the seventh day, he rested. Period.
He didn't need to rest. You mentioned that already. He modeled it for us because we cannot just work. God could. He can.
Mm-hmm.
He could do that if he so desired to continuously work. And again, like you mentioned, he could have done it all instantaneously.
Yep.
But he showed us, you've mentioned boundaries, right? Like he did one task one day.
Yes.
He did the next task the next day.
Right.
He did the next task the next day. On to the seventh day when he said, "It is good, and I am going to rest." Not for him,
no,
but for us, because we cannot do 7 days of work. At one point, I can't remember what the verse is. It says we can do 6 days of work, but on the seventh we will rest.
Right. And just think about it in just like everyday life. When I go on a walk and I get outside and I get my body moving and I disconnect from social media and work and people, and that's my walks and my runs are time with God for me. And so when I get out and I do those things and I create margin and I create boundaries and I rest my brain, my creativity flows. I have better ideas. I can emotionally regulate myself and figure out how to solve problems, right? Like I can, there are such good things that come out of those boundaries and margin. And God knew that.
Yes, he did.
He knew that.
And with the seventh day of rest, right? He says it's also like the holy day. It is the day you will spend with me.
Right.
Because spending that restful time with God is so important to knowing who we are as a person and to remembering the love that God has for us that can get lost in this earthly world, because that's purposeful, right? Like Satan's here, like specifically trying to remind you or to tell you, right? And remind you that he's here because he doesn't want you to remember that you're loved, right? He wants you to think that you're insignificant, and that can be easy to feel and to believe if you're not spending that restful time with God. And if you're not spending that restful time with God to remember who you are, you can't put that into your business, right? And it can't succeed. You can't put that into your family, and your family can't succeed. And then he's also not only pulled you away from the business that's meant to amplify the kingdom of God in whatever way God has pulled you to do with your business, right? But then he has taken you away from being able to amplify God in your family.
Yeah, Satan wants us to be busy. He wants us to hustle. He wants us to hurry, because busyness is a barrier to our relationship with the Lord.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you're sitting there, because there's a difference between productivity and busy.
Yes.
And if you're busy, your brain is busy. And if your brain is busy, you can't rest in the Holy Spirit.
Right.
And if you're not resting in him, you can't hear him. If you can't hear him, you can't follow the way God's leading you.
Yes.
To be productive for him, because everything we do on this earth is not going to be as significant as what we're doing for the kingdom of heaven. And what we do on this earth should provide growth for the kingdom.
Yes.
And if God's called you to be an entrepreneur, he doesn't just do it so you can make money.
Right.
Money is not the end goal, right? Money is needed on this earth because we need to provide for our families, but it is not the end goal. And if God's calling you to business, it's not just for money. It is to somehow amplify your ability to draw people to the kingdom of heaven. It could be one, it could be hundreds, thousands, right?
Yep.
Billy Graham ended up pulling in millions of people for the kingdom of heaven, right?
Right.
Your calling with your business is going to be significant, but you can't do that if you're busy, because then you can't hear the Holy Spirit talk to you.
Well, and you can't hear the Holy Spirit, but you also, your priorities, right? Like back to what's actually important. And you can't do those things if your priorities are out of whack. Right? If you're not managing your time and your tasks well, you can't have margin, you can't have boundaries, you can't. And that's been a really hard, a hard pill for me to swallow, is that I am the queen. I was the queen. I'm not anymore. I was the queen of shoving 20 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack. I was the queen of booking every single minute of my day so that I could achieve, get the accolades, win the awards, perform, right?
Right.
And where was I left? I was burned out. I was miserable. I felt empty. And it's all because I bought into this hustle culture mentality that I had to be constantly busy and I had to be constantly doing. But like you said, busyness is a barrier.
So I have this lovely friend, love him. We went through seminary together. Amazing man. Okay. Before we went through seminary, he is now a pastor and absolutely believe God had him called for that. Absolutely believe God had him called for that.
Yeah.
But before he was a pastor, before he got into seminary, he was in the financial district. And in that, you book yourself. You just book yourself solid. And there are some times that you've got double meetings because people cancel. Right. And so he was so used to that kind of scheduling process in the worldly aspects, right? That when he became the pastor, and was having to schedule these meetings with people, with God.
Yes.
He was overbooking himself and he's like, man, I can't do this. It just doesn't work. And I was like, it really brings that to me right now. Like what you were just saying, like brought that to me. If you are working with God, you cannot be busy. You need to have the margin, because if you're speaking to somebody for God, right? You don't know if that person's going to get what they need out of a 15-minute conversation that you've scheduled.
Right.
Sometimes they need a full hour. And if you are stacked back to back, you are taking away from your productivity for the kingdom, not just for you, because it's not about scheduling a busy day. It's about scheduling purpose and prioritizing purpose, right?
Right. We, in our, in my business that I own with my husband, it's a service-based business. And something that's really important to us is mentoring the people that work for us. So if we did not allow margin and we didn't allow boundaries and we didn't put that stuff into place, we wouldn't be able to have conversations about their budgets and how do we get to the end of the week without spending every dime we have. And how, some of the people that work for us have a mass amount of trauma. And they don't have anyone, or they didn't have anyone in their lives growing up that managed money well, that managed their time well, managed their resources well. So if we didn't have that margin, we wouldn't have even noticed those things. Right. You wouldn't have
time to notice it.
Right. We wouldn't have had time. We wouldn't have had time to A, notice it, but B, to even have a conversation about it, for it to even come up, so that there is something we can help them with, right? In my consulting business, it's about planting seeds for me. So I'm not called to stand on a stage and preach. That's something I've been released from recently. So it's a kind of a fresh thing on my mind. I wondered for several years if I was someone that was going to like preach the gospel, like, or preach, like stand on a stage and not necessarily be a pastor, but kind of in that space. And God showed me recently, I'm a seed planter. I'm not responsible for being on the stage and preaching the thing. I'm a seed planter, and I am responsible for encouraging and lifting up and believing in the business owners that I work with. And by planting those seeds, and if I plant them in the right way, they end up becoming beautiful flowers.
Yeah.
Those seeds will take root and they will eventually begin to grow. Right. Yeah. So I'm a seed planter. I'm not a Billy Graham. I'm probably not, I don't know. God may have bigger plans than what my brain can reach. Right. But
you never know. Greater than you could ever imagine.
Right. But I'm not going to reach the masses like Billy Graham, likely. Right. Like, I mean, God can do whatever he wants, but.
Well, see, because, and we talked about this before, right? You and me specifically, about tent making, right? Paul reached so many people in areas that were so against the idea of Christianity, so against the idea of Jesus, and even of Judaism at the time, right? Just by setting up shop, gaining the trust of the people around him, so that people will listen to what he had to say and understand how God changed his life so drastically through Jesus. And if it weren't for that tent making process, right? Because not all of us are called to be preachers or priests or pastors, or like tent making is so important. Paul brought so many people to the love of God and spread it so far just through following what God had set out him to do. Right.
But
I don't know if you have any more.
Well, no, just that, but through Paul's management of his life and having boundaries and creating margin, right? Like it all goes back. I mean, we have to start funneling our vision for our business and our vision for our lives and our purpose through boundaries and margin, because that's what's going to allow us to have conversations with people that are going to lead them to Jesus.
And going back, you had mentioned, rest in prayer, and Jesus stepped aside to specifically pray with God, right? Paul went where God told him to go. Right. And that's a big way that I manage my time now, is God's given me all these things that he's pushed me into, and it can seem overwhelming if I let it, right? Yes. But I'm very particular. I'm like, God, I need you to show me, like, here's my task list. This is what I'm planning. Yeah. This is how I'm setting it aside. But if there's something that needs to happen in a different priority, I pray that you call me out on it. And I pray that you show me what I need to do today, because you would not have handed me all of these tasks that I specifically prayed about, right? Like, prayer is so important, because you hear God better when you're in specific solo time with him, right? And so I know I stepped out into these things because God called me. And if he called me to do these things, he's going to provide a way to do that.
I love that.
And so I schedule my time now in a way that is specifically an acknowledgement of where he wants me to go during my day, which is hard if you're not resting and praying.
Right. If you're constantly going 24/7, you don't have the space to hear, hey, maybe take that off your plate, or hey, that's something you could delegate, or hey, I need you to focus your energy at home for a minute. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, I love the tools. I love these 5 ways of managing time. And actually love Eisenhower's matrix. It took me a long time to kind of swallow that and go, okay, this is something I can actually do and use. But I've always been really good at the delete bucket of that, and going, nope, I don't need to do that. I'm gonna do this thing over here, so I think it just goes back to, where are we called? What are we called to do? What have we been praying for? And how are we reacting now to what we prayed for? Because
that gave me goosebumps.
Sometimes when we get it, right? Sometimes when we get what we prayed for, we forget that we prayed for it.
Yes.
Then it feels like a burden.
Right.
So I don't know where that came from, but
No, I absolutely agree. And like I said, it gave me goosebumps. And then my dog distracted me.
That's okay.
But we have reached our time. Was there anything else that you had to share with us today? Because I would love to at least get it up in here so that we can.
Let's see here. I have a women in business community where I think I'm over 500 members now. So it's a place to come ask questions. I call it, I like to joke and say it's Vegas. What you say inside there is confidential. And if I ever find out it gets shared, that person, like those people, will be removed. But it's a safe space. It's a really welcoming group. It's a pretty good place to come and ask questions or share events or things that you're doing and get feedback. I actually just asked the group yesterday for some feedback on a tool that I've implemented into my website, and I needed to make sure that it actually worked and that it worked the way I thought it was going to work.
Right.
So it's a great place to do that. And then I mentioned this earlier, I have a podcast. It's called Sales and Business Strategy for Women. I talk a lot about being a woman and how that is advantageous for us in sales, but anyone can really listen. It applies to everyone, but it is specifically kind of woman focused. So that is the QR code. There is the Apple podcast, but it's also on all the major listening platforms like Spotify, iHeartMusic, Amazon Music. I'm trying to think of the other ones, but it's on 10 or so platforms. Okay. You can also just go to podbean.com and you can find it there too. That's the hosting platform that I use. And then if you have questions for me, I am happy to answer. Shoot me an email, get on my website. And I would love to chat. I love connecting with people. So don't feel like you're bothering me or I don't have time or whatever. I really do want to connect with you. The best way to do that is through my email or through my Facebook community. So that's where we're at.
Beautiful. Well, I am really excited that you joined us today. I realized I did not introduce who I was at the beginning of this or what my business was and the purpose of this series. So yes. I apologize. I'm going to add that in very quickly here at the end. Hi, I am Katrina. I am the founder, CEO, the everything, right, of my small business, Reach Life Management Consulting. We empower individuals and small businesses to achieve their success and to become more efficient and effective through consulting services. I have a various amount of degrees ranging from business to political science with some psychology thrown in there. I also have a seminary degree. And a whole bunch of leadership and counseling certifications. And I use that to aid not just small businesses, but also personalized consulting. Yeah. And I love it. Connecting with people, like you said, is just a beautiful thing that I enjoy doing, and being able to help people pinpoint inefficiencies and find ways to address them so that they can reach the goals that they're trying to reach. And within that, I do a lot of career aid too. And it's super enjoyable to me. I have started this series specifically to reach out to Christian entrepreneurs, because this is a crazy world. And if we don't have people we can rely on to aid us in this process that they've already reached through, right? Like they've already walked through, and being able to be like, hey, I see you're years into this journey and I'm just starting. What can I learn from you?
Yes.
What is it that you have gained during this process that would be beneficial for me to know? What tools do you have that are beneficial for me, right? And just being able to share that from trusted sources to the entrepreneurial community, because like within your group, right, that I am a part of, and I'm so glad to be a part of, right? Like being able to reach people that need these services that maybe are too scared to ask because they are so stuck in this hustle culture. I have to figure it out on my own. If I ask for help, then I am failing. No, we are meant for community. And that is also acknowledged very heavily in the Bible, how important it is to not be secluded. Yes. And I wanted to use this as an opportunity to reach those people that maybe are too scared to ask, or who have been asking these questions and still don't have the answer.
Yep.
And I am really excited. I'm pulling up the next. Okay, so the next meeting will be next Wednesday, the 11th, from 8 to 9. And that one's going to be holistic health and faith, achieving balance in life and business. I am still looking for a holistic health expert speaker for that one. Okay. I can do it on my own, but it's always a lot more fun to be able to have somebody to sit and chat with during these kind of series. So if you have any recommendations, for sure, reach out. I am looking forward to seeing how that one goes. And I really thank you so much, Lindsay, not Dan, Lindsay, for joining us today.
I know. I'm not Dan. I'm Lindsay Fletcher.
I know. Hey, Dan, Danny, Daniel, Danielle.
Hello. It's Lindsay.
Lindsay with an A too. I managed to.
Yes, Lindsay with an A.
In part of my social media posts, it said A, and then in one of it said E for Lindsay.
That's okay.
And I was like, in the same picture, I managed to misspell it.
It's okay. My sister's name is Lacey, and I literally answer to anything. And Lindsay, there's like a bajillion ways you can spell my name, so whatever.
Well, I'm hoping. I worked really hard to go through and fix that, so hopefully.
Totally fine if you miss
prayerfully, I managed to fix that. I felt so bad.
Don't feel bad.
But I am so grateful that you joined us today. And I thank you for sharing your beautiful tools with all who are going to listen. And I think it's going to be super beneficial. I myself had not heard of it, the Eisenhower Matrix. And I, since our discussion previously, have been looking more into it and find myself very proud that I did not have to delete very many things because I had it prioritized well. I don't remember. It was some very insignificant thing that I don't even remember. It got deleted off my list because it was unimportant.
Not important and not urgent.
Yes. And it reminds me of, I don't have to do the homework for my clients.
No.
If I give them homework, they are required to do the homework.
Right. Not
if
you.
It's not done, then they have to push back their meeting with me next, because their homework we give our clients are very important to being able to help them with the next step in the process. Yeah. That is not my job. My job is to aid them and give them the tools to progress. Right. Because especially as a consultant, we're not coaches. I do coaching also, but that's a totally different price range and totally different length of service, right? As a consultant, my goal is short term. I give I help you pinpoint the problem. I give you expertise on how to fix it. You go through and fix it. And then you ask for help if you need it. But if I give you homework to fix the problem, it's very much required for you to do the homework, right? Yes. That's the difference between consulting and coaching, like a big difference, right? Yes. And me not doing people's homework is not me failing.
Correct.
Yeah. So that was definitely something that I worked through just in our last conversation.
It's the teach men to fish, right?
Oh, yes.
You can't do it for them, or they'll never know how to do it themselves.
Right. And I learned that when I walked through the matrix, when we were discussing having you on here. And so it has already been beneficial to me.
Good.
Yes. And so I know that it's going to be beneficial to other people. So I thank you so much for sharing it with us today.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy to be here, and so honored to be your first speaker of the series.
Love it.
And yeah, I would, if time management is something that you need help with, anyone who, listens to this in the future, if time management is something you need help with, that's kind of one of my superpowers. So I would love to sit down with you and get you unstuck in that area.
Yes. Well, I will definitely be sending people your way.
Thank you.
While I can do a little bit of that, I absolutely prefer sending people out to the experts. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
I'm going to stop recording now. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Boom. Oh, wait, no. Now, boom.